women's ordination. What should you do as an Orthodox pastor in a church body that has women's ordination? You should start a new church body. I don't know how else to say it. There really is no other way to say it. You're not coming back. Once you do it, I mean, don't get me wrong. Church bodies have come back. There's one that did in Northern Europe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember if it's Lithuania. I think it is. Latvia. It's one of those two. Lithuania or Latvia. I don't remember which one. They came back, but it took them generations and like apostasy level falling apart. Okay. So, I mean, you kind of have an option. You can sit there and expect that and try to enclave within the superstructure of this false church, right? This idol that has become the thing that everyone thinks is church. You can sit in an enclave of that while sharing fellowship. I mean, you have to go into in statua confessionis. You have to go into a closed communion scenario against the body you're in against the communion you're in. Okay. An enclave as an outsider group and try to survive. And you can do that. I'm not sure that's worth your time, because what you're going to do then is you're going to put a lot of energy, effort. You're going to make the use of the time that you have in dealing with that body's direct attacks on you and power over you in some ways. Whereas if they drive you out, I mean, I'd try to get driven out first, just by being honest. I mean, it wouldn't be like, go be a jerk. But if you didn't have to look over your shoulder at all of that, then you could focus on talking to the people who don't know about Jesus yet, who don't believe at all. And it's not because they're like running away from it. It's because they don't know any of it. And so at the end of the day, I know you're supposed to flee false teachers. I don't know how else to say it. It's Romans 16, flee false teachers. I don't know what to tell you, Lutheran Church in Australia. It's a tough fight. You're not done yet. You could still win this thing where you're at, from what I understand. From what I understand, your last vote was a few votes better than the previous one. You made ground for the first time in quite a while. It wasn't a lot of ground, but it was ground. Well, you should build on that. And I think you do that by being active. And I know that that's not exactly the approach you've taken as a whole. And that's what, I mean, you play the game you think you need to play. Okay, cool. I would play it a little differently. I'd be pretty active on this one, because history is so clear of how it gets there and then what it does once it's there. It's very clear what it does to the body once it's there. And the way that it gets there is always through the political system. And I mean, we're going to talk about this here in a moment, I think. If you're giving the best construction to the enemies of the church as they act within the church, you're really not following the 8th commandment at that point. The 8th commandment is not put the best construction on heresy. It really isn't that, right? It's tell the truth. And yeah, when you are in a one-on-one situation about a friend or a neighbor or even a countryman, and their individual motives, things you can't see or know, you definitely want to put the best construction on that, assuming that they're better people than you are, because it's generally true. That's what original sin means. But you do not have to put the best construction on actual evil that happens. You can just say, that's a thing, right? Oh, that person murdered. Oh, you got to put the best construction. That person killed. Best construction. I mean, there's no best constructioning of that. Doesn't mean you have to say they murdered, therefore they're more evil than me. That's a different thing, right? And that's the tool they use against you to silence you, by the way. That's the game they're playing. But you don't have to play that game. You can just play the game of truth, right? Just the game of truth. And so I would be a lot more vocal than you have been, and I would be a lot more intentionally active with the congregations themselves, trying to educate in a political way. I mean, if you want, it's a political battle. It's a vote. You're voting on doctrine. That alone means you're not Orthodox, right? I mean, just acknowledge that. I'll acknowledge it for us when we do it. LCMS, I mean, we're on the verge of heterodoxy all the time. Whenever we vote on doctrine, we've done it more than once. So like that's not a faithful approach to what the scriptures say. That means that you're in a structure that is for the benefit of the church, but is not the church. And that structure is being taken over by the enemies of the church, or trying to be, in a first article way. You're fighting on the first article planet. You're not fighting by means of the second article in belief. You're dealing with, to some extent, unbelievers. Now, I don't want to get into the hearts of every single person, how much or whether or not they're an actual going to hell unbeliever, but they don't believe the scriptures on this issue. So you're fighting against someone who doesn't believe the scriptures on this issue. That makes them an unbeliever of this issue, which means that they are willing to play dirty. Because they are. They don't believe it in the first place. They're playing dirty to begin with. And their conscience is tied into that. What else are they going to do? You think they're just going to sit there and not use the political system and propaganda and communication tools of the present age to get their way? They're just going to do it. And I wouldn't take it sitting down. But why? What do you got to lose? I mean, you're going to war, right?